The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. A Counterintuitive Approach to Living a Good Life by Mark Manson. Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck is a refreshing, no-nonsense guide to living a more meaningful life by embracing your limitations, flaws, and the reality that not everything in life is worth caring about. Manson takes a counterintuitive approach to self-help, arguing that the key to a good life isn't more positivity or striving to be extraordinary, but rather learning how to focus on what truly matters and letting go of the rest. In a world that constantly tells us to be positive and chase endless goals, Manson flips the script by suggesting that the pursuit of a better life often exacerbates feelings of inadequacy. Instead of trying to avoid problems or avoid pain, Manson urges readers to accept that life's difficulties are inevitable, and that by carefully choosing what to care about or what to give a fuck about, we can find deeper satisfaction and happiness. The pursuit of happiness is a problem. Manson begins by debunking the popular notion that happiness can be attained by avoiding problems or through constant self-improvement. He argues that life's problems never actually go away, they only change in nature. Therefore, the real question isn't how to get rid of your problems, but what problems are worth solving. He introduces the idea that suffering is an inevitable part of life, and our focus should be on managing our suffering in a way that is meaningful to us. Manson provocatively states that happiness comes from solving problems, not from trying to live a problem-free life. The endless pursuit of happiness only leads to dissatisfaction because it implies that we are always lacking something. Manson emphasizes that true happiness comes from understanding that not everything matters equally. We need to carefully choose what we care about and, by doing so, align our lives with values that truly matter to us. In essence, it's not about giving up, but about giving a fuck about the right things. The feedback loop from hell. Manson introduces the concept of the feedback loop from hell, a cycle where we feel bad about feeling bad, which makes us feel even worse. This loop is driven by societal expectations that we should always be happy, successful, and stress-free. However, these expectations are unrealistic and set us up for failure. To break free from this loop, Manson suggests that we should stop trying to avoid negative emotions and instead embrace them as a natural part of life. By accepting that it's okay to feel bad sometimes, we can reduce the anxiety that comes from trying to force positivity. He also criticizes the modern obsession with being extraordinary. Manson argues that the pressure to be special leads to unnecessary stress and disappointment. Instead, he advocates for embracing mediocrity and recognizing that it's okay not to be the best at everything. By lowering the bar for what we consider success, we free ourselves from the constant need for validation and approval from others. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. The core of Manson's philosophy is learning to be selective about what we care about. He argues that most people give too many fucks about things that don't really matter, like trying to impress others, seeking constant approval, or worrying about things beyond their control. This dilutes their energy and prevents them from focusing on what truly matters. Manson suggests that we should focus our attention on a few things that align with our core values and let go of the rest. This involves a process of self-reflection to determine what our true priorities are, and then committing to them, even if it means letting go of societal expectations or disappointing others. He introduces the idea that not giving a fuck doesn't mean being indifferent or apathetic. Rather, it's about being comfortable with being different and not caring about superficial things. It's about accepting that we can't please everyone, and that we don't have to be liked by everyone. By focusing on what truly matters, we can live more authentic and fulfilling lives. The value of suffering. Manson delves into the concept of value-driven suffering, emphasizing that life's difficulties are inevitable, and what truly matters is how we choose to approach and interpret them. He asks readers to consider what they are willing to struggle for, as this will define their life experiences. He argues that our values dictate the quality of our lives, and often we suffer because our values are misplaced. For example, if we value superficial things like wealth, fame, or material possessions, we may end up constantly dissatisfied, as these things are often beyond our control. On the other hand, if we value personal growth, integrity, and meaningful relationships, we are more likely to find contentment because these values are within our control. Manson urges readers to evaluate their current values and consider whether they are serving them well. He provides a framework for developing healthier values, such as responsibility, taking ownership of your life and decisions; uncertainty, embracing the fact that you don't know everything and being open to new experiences; failure, understanding that failure is a necessary part of growth and learning; rejection, recognizing that rejection is a part of life and that it's better to be rejected for who you truly are than to be accepted for someone you're not. By aligning our lives with values that are within our control and that contribute to our growth and happiness, we can navigate life's challenges more effectively. You are always choosing. One of the key messages in the book is that we are always making choices, whether we realize it or not. Manson emphasizes that while we can't control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond to these events. He challenges the notion of victimhood and argues that we always have a choice in how we interpret and react to our circumstances. He uses the example of Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, who found meaning in his suffering by choosing to focus on what he could control his attitude and mindset despite the horrific conditions he was subjected to. This story illustrates the power of choosing how to respond to life's challenges and how this choice can shape our experience. Manson argues that taking responsibility for our choices, even when things go wrong, is empowering. It allows us to reclaim control over our lives and steer them in the direction we want to go. By accepting that we are responsible for how we interpret and react to our experiences, we can create a life that aligns with our values and priorities. The importance of saying no. A significant part of not giving a fuck is learning to say no. Manson explains that every time we say yes to something, we are, by default, saying no to something else. Therefore, it's crucial to be mindful of what we agree to take on. He encourages readers to practice the art of saying no to things that don't align with their values or priorities. This might involve setting boundaries, disappointing others, or facing criticism, but in the long run, it leads to a more focused and fulfilling life. By saying no to the unimportant, we create space for what really matters. The reality of death. Manson discusses the often avoided topic of death and how confronting our mortality can be a powerful motivator for living a meaningful life. He argues that our fear of death often leads us to avoid thinking about it, but this avoidance prevents us from fully appreciating life. By acknowledging that our time is limited, we are forced to confront the question of what really matters. Manson suggests that contemplating our mortality can help us clarify our values and priorities, leading to a life that is more intentional and fulfilling. He shares a story about a friend who passed away unexpectedly, which profoundly impacted him and made him reevaluate his own life choices. This experience reinforced the idea that life is too short to waste on things that don't matter. Manson urges readers to use the reality of death as a reminder to focus on what truly matters and to live in a way that reflects their deepest values. By doing so, we can live more fully and leave a legacy that we can be proud of. The responsibility fault fallacy. Manson introduces the concept of the responsibility fault fallacy, where people often confuse the idea of taking responsibility with accepting blame. He argues that while we may not be at fault for the things that happen to us, We are always responsible for how we respond. This distinction is crucial because it empowers us to take control of our lives rather than being passive victims of our circumstances. Manson emphasizes that taking responsibility for our reactions, decisions, and behaviors is the key to personal growth and fulfillment. He also highlights the importance of making peace with the fact that life is unfair and things won't always go our way. Instead of wasting energy on blaming others or lamenting our situation, Manson encourages readers to focus on what they can control and to take ownership of their lives. The acceptance of failure. Manson argues that failure is an inevitable part of life and that our fear of failure often holds us back from pursuing our true passions and goals. He challenges the conventional wisdom that failure should be avoided at all costs, instead suggesting that failure is a necessary and valuable part of the learning process. He introduces the concept of growth through pain, explaining that our most significant personal development often comes from our most challenging experiences. By embracing failure and learning from it, we can grow stronger and more resilient. Manson also discusses the importance of persistence and resilience in the face of failure. He argues that those who achieve great things are not necessarily the most talented, but those who are willing to fail, learn, and keep going despite setbacks. This mindset allows us to take risks, pursue our passions, and ultimately live a more fulfilling life. Final thoughts. The freedom of not giving a fuck. In the final chapters of the book, Manson reiterates the importance of letting go of the things that don't matter and focusing on what truly does. He emphasizes that the freedom to not give a fuck is about living a life that is true to yourself, not dictated by societal pressures or the expectations of others. Manson encourages readers to embrace their imperfections, accept life's inherent challenges, and choose their values wisely. By doing so, we can free ourselves from the unnecessary burdens that weigh us down and live a more authentic, meaningful life.
Feel free to subscribe, share the audio, and hit the like button if you enjoy the content. Thanks for listening.